The story of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard began in 2009 when they met on the set of the film The Rum Diary. At the time, Depp was 46 years old and already a global star. His iconic roles in Pirates of the Caribbean, Edward Scissorhands, and other films made him one of the most recognizable actors in Hollywood. Heard was just 23 and was beginning to build her career. In The Rum Diary, Depp played the lead role of journalist Paul Kemp, while Heard portrayed the seductive beauty, Chanot, his love interest. According to Depp, there was an instant attraction between them. Later, he confessed that during one of the shower scenes, he felt a real spark. She walked into the room, and I couldn't take my eyes off her. It felt like something that happens once in a lifetime. But at the time, both were in serious relationships. Johnny Depp was living with French singer and actress Vanessa Paradis, with whom he had been for 14 years and had 2 children. Their union seemed strong, but there were rumors that Depp was growing more distant. Amber Heard was dating photographer Tassia Van Ree. Their relationship was serious. Heard even took on the last name Tassia. Despite the chemistry between Depp and Heard, nothing happened during the filming. They both continued living their separate lives. After the film's release in 2011, their paths crossed again. Depp and Paradis began drifting apart, and in 2012, they officially announced their split. That same year, Heard broke up with Tassia Van Ree. Rumors of a romance between Depp and Heard emerged in 2012. They were spotted together in a hotel in Las Vegas, then at events in Hollywood. There was no official confirmation, but sources claimed that Depp had lost his head over Heard. In his own words, "I found in her something I hadn't experienced in a long time. Fire, passion, energy. She was completely different, unlike anyone else." He showered her with gifts, jewels, paintings, even bought her a horse so she could ride next to him. However, early in the relationship, there were troubling signs. According to Depp's friends, Heard often had jealousy outbursts, would suddenly yell at him, and demanded attention. However, he was so enchanted by her that he ignored it. Thus began their romance, a beautiful, passionate one, but with the first signs of future problems. After several years of dating, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard decided to make their relationship official. On the outside, their romance seemed like a classic love story. He, a global film star, and she, a young actress striving for success. But behind closed doors, their relationship became increasingly turbulent. In 2013, a year after his breakup with Vanessa Paradis, Depp proposed to Heard. He gave her an extravagant ring with a huge diamond. According to rumors, Depp's friends were wary of the news. They felt that Heard was controlling his life too much. However, Depp was in love and defended her in front of everyone. "She is smart, beautiful, independent. She is my destiny." Vanessa Paradis, with whom Depp remained on good terms for the sake of their children, also tried to warn him, but Depp didn't listen. During their engagement, serious problems started to surface in their relationship. It was reported that Heard often had jealousy fits, criticized Depp for his lifestyle, alcohol use, and tendency to go out at night. However, Depp claimed that he didn't realize the full extent of the problems at that time. When you love someone, you don't notice the warning signs until it's too late. On February 3, 2015, Depp and Heard got married at their home in Los Angeles and then held a lavish celebration on Depp's private island in the Bahamas. In photographs, they looked happy, but according to witnesses, even during the celebration, there were already conflicts between them. It was strange. They were kissing one moment, then arguing the next. There was tension in the air. During their honeymoon, Depp chartered a yacht for a romantic trip. But according to some of his friends, it was during this period that he began to notice that Heard wasn't just capricious. She was prone to bursts of fury. She could suddenly yell, demand attention, and accuse him of things without reason. She could be the most loving woman in the world, and in a second, turn into a storm. However, Depp still hoped that love would prevail. According to Depp, shortly after the wedding, Heard began showing aggression during their arguments. She would throw objects at him: glasses, bottles, phones. On one occasion, Depp claimed that she tried to smother him with a pillow while he was sleeping. Another argument ended with Heard punching him in the face. One of the most famous incidents was during filming Pirates of the Caribbean in Australia. Depp claimed that in 2015, during one argument, Heard threw a vodka bottle at him, which shattered and severed the tip of his finger. "I look at my hand and see that the tip of my finger is just gone." He had to undergo surgery, but the official story was that it was an accident. Later, during legal proceedings, Heard's lawyers claimed that Depp had injured his finger on his own in a drunken state. During this period, their housekeepers and security staff began noticing that Depp often appeared with bruises and cuts. However, as it later turned out, he never told anyone the truth because he didn't want to expose his private life. Men aren't supposed to complain, especially when they are victims of abuse. At this time, Depp's career began to falter. Filming Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales, was delayed due to his injury. Studios began to worry about his instability. Tabloids wrote more and more about his alcohol and drug use. He admitted that he began drinking more to cope with the stress from his marriage. "I drank to keep from losing my mind." Heard, on the other hand, started attending public events alone and actively promoted herself as an independent actress. She landed a role in Aquaman, which strengthened her position in Hollywood. But their marriage was already on the verge of collapse. In 2016, a scandal would erupt, making them the most scandalous couple in Hollywood. By 2016, the relationship between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard had reached a breaking point. They no longer hid their conflicts from even their closest circles. Their home was constantly filled with arguments, and many of Depp's friends advised him to end this toxic marriage. However, no one could predict the storm that their separation would bring. In May 2016, Depp was in a tense state. His mother, Betty Sue Palmer, was gravely ill. He was torn between filming and trying to fix his personal life. He drank more to numb the stress. On May 20th, his mother passed away. For Depp, it was a devastating blow. Betty Sue had always been his support, and he was in deep depression. That same day, he returned home, where the final major argument between him and Amber Heard took place. Heard claimed that during the conflict, Depp threw a phone at her in rage and struck her. She said she suffered a severe bruise on her face. But later, Depp's security guards and friends claimed that there were no signs of injury on her face that night. Furthermore, in the following days, Heard appeared in public without any marks of injury. Nevertheless, on May 23, 2016, she filed for divorce. But this was not the end of the story. On May 27, 2016, Heard appeared in court with a bruise under her eye and filed for a restraining order against Depp. She claimed that he had systematically abused her and presented photographs of her alleged injuries. The global media exploded. Johnny Depp, a domestic abuser? Newspapers were filled with headlines about the actor's monstrous behavior. Feminist movements in Hollywood rallied behind Heard. Depp was canceled in the industry, and his career was at risk. But many immediately doubted the truth of her statements. Los Angeles police, who had arrived at their home on May 21st, found no signs of violence. Heard refused to give official testimony. Neighbors and friends of Depp claimed that she was lying. Nevertheless, the court temporarily granted her request and prohibited Depp from approaching her. Depp remained silent. He was shocked and devastated. In an interview, he confessed, "I lost everything in a matter of days. My life, my reputation, my career, all collapsed in an instant." Media scandal and dirty war. The sides began exchanging blows. Johnny Depp's friends claimed that it was Heard who hit him, not the other way around. Heard's lawyers continued to insist on her version of events. Photos of Johnny Depp with bruises and injuries inflicted by Heard appeared on the internet. His lawyer, Adam Waldman, called her a liar who staged a PR campaign. It was around this time that the public learned about the scandalous incident involving feces. After one of their arguments in 2016, Depp's housekeeper found human feces on his bed. Heard claimed it was a prank, but Depp was convinced that she did it out of anger. "That was when I realized it was over." Despite the scandals, the parties decided to settle their conflict outside of court. In August 2016, Heard withdrew the restraining order. Depp agreed to pay her $7 million as part of the settlement. Heard claimed she would donate the money to charity, but it was later revealed that she did not. In a joint statement, they wrote, "Our relationship was turbulent, but always based on love. Neither party made false statements for financial gain. But the truth was different. This war was only beginning." In 2018, Heard wrote an article about domestic violence, and Depp decided to file a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against her. Publication of the article and its consequences. In December 2018, AmberHeard wrote an article for The Washington Post, describing her experience as a victim of domestic violence. In the article, she didn't name specific names, but everything pointed to her ex-husband, Johnny Depp, who at the time was one of Hollywood's most famous actors. In the article, Heard described how abuse changed her life, career, and personal relationships. She stated that she had to pay a huge price for telling her truth, and that she had to face the consequences for speaking openly about abuse, as well as for being a woman who dared to tell her story in a male-dominated world where women are often the victims of violence, not the other way around. Her publication immediately attracted public attention, as Heard was a well-known actress, and her divorce from Depp had already been in the news for several years. However, despite the fact that Heard did not directly name him, the entire context of the article clearly indicated Johnny Depp as the abuser. Johnny Depp's reaction. After the article was published, Depp was shocked, claiming that he had never been the aggressor in their relationship. For him, the article was a catastrophe. Immediately after its publication, a wave of public condemnation began. The media, the public, and colleagues in the industry started distancing themselves from Depp, and his reputation was at risk. One of the first consequences was his dismissal from the role of Captain Jack Sparrow in Pirates of the Caribbean. The film's producers stated that they would not continue working with the actor as his name had been linked to allegations of abuse. This decision marked a turning point in Depp's career, as Pirates of the Caribbean was his main franchise project, and the role of Sparrow was one of his brightest and most successful. The situation began to worsen, and it was at that point that Depp decided to sue AmberHeard for defamation. He demanded $50 million in compensation, claiming that Heard's accusations were false and had ruined his career. Legal battle. Lawsuit and counterclaim. Depp filed a lawsuit against Heard, claiming that her article caused immense damage to his reputation and career. and that the abuse allegations were unfounded and lacked evidence. He argued that Heard used his name in her article to promote her career and gain extra attention. According to Depp, she fabricated these accusations to destroy his reputation. In response, Amber Heard filed a counterclaim for $100 million, claiming that she had become the victim of a large smear campaign orchestrated by Depp's lawyers. Heard argued that these accusations were part of a manipulative strategy aimed at discrediting her. She also stated that her article was written based on her own experience, and that she was only sharing the truth about what she had gone through. In response to Depp's defamation allegations, Heard continued to insist that the abuse from Depp was real and that she had the right to speak out about it. Career destruction and public reaction. After the publication of Heard's article and her abuse allegations, the public began to split into two camps. Some considered Heard a brave woman who dared to speak out in a world where victims of abuse are often not believed. Others supported Depp, seeing him as innocent and subjected to public humiliation and the destruction of his career due to false accusations. Public support began to change, and many began to doubt the sincerity of Heard's accusations. However, an important moment was that despite her status as a victim, Heard herself could be accused of abuse. As a result, her image also suffered, and not all Hollywood studios were willing to work with her. Defamation and destruction of reputation. An important legal point was that Heard did not directly name Depp in her article, which allowed her to avoid direct defamation accusations. But for Depp, this move was devastating, and his lawyers insisted that the accusations were false and had harmed him. Meanwhile, after the article was published, Depp's career continued to deteriorate. He appeared less frequently in major projects and even lost a number of fans who had supported him. Conclusion. Thus, the article in The Washington Post became not just an expression of Amber Heard's personal experiences, but also the trigger for a subsequent legal battle, public accusations, and serious consequences for both sides. The question of who was right, who was wrong, and what really happened in their relationship became a subject of discussion in a world where each side tried to find its own truth. Preconditions for the trial. After Johnny Depp filed a defamation lawsuit against Amber Heard in the United States, the case continued to gain public attention and became more and more public. However, at the same time, another legal drama unfolded in 2018 in the UK. At that time, the British tabloid The Sun published an article in which Depp was called a wife-beater. This article, written by journalist Carlos Griggs, became a key moment for the actor, who had already faced the consequences of allegations from Heard. As a result, Depp decided to sue The Sun and its publisher, News Group Newspapers, for defamation. He argued that the publication was false and had ruined his reputation, and that the newspaper, by publishing such materials, had violated his rights. Grounds for the lawsuit and the trial, Depp filed a lawsuit against The Sun for defamation, arguing that the accusation of abuse was completely false. In his lawsuit, the actor claimed that he had never subjected his ex-wife to abuse, and, according to him, these accusations were unfounded. He argued that The Sun had intentionally spread false accusations in order to destroy his reputation, and that the newspaper had used false facts and distorted statements to create the impression that he was an abuser. In response, The Sun and its publishers argued that the accusations were true, and that based on information received from Heard and her testimony, their article did not violate defamation laws. Key moments of the trial. The legal proceedings were longer and more complicated than expected, and became an important stage in Depp's legal fight to restore his reputation. During the 2020 trial in London, testimonies, evidence, and documents were presented that were meant to confirm that the abuse allegations against Depp were indeed false. Specifically, audio recordings of conversations were presented in which Amber Heard admitted that she had been the aggressor in the relationship and had inflicted physical harm on Depp. Some of these audio recordings became important evidence in the trial, as they showed that Heard herself had repeatedly beaten and humiliated the actor. One of the most striking moments was when Heard admitted that she had acted aggressively and even hit Depp during their marriage. Additionally, medical documents were presented confirming that Depp had signs of abuse, specifically bruises and injuries sustained from incidents with Heard. There was also a photo showing Depp with a finger injury. He claimed that Heard threw a bottle at him, which caused part of his finger to be severed. Court ruling. In the end, the court ruled that the abuse accusations in The Sun were true, and Depp lost the case. This was a shocking turn of events, as Depp's evidence, including his audio recordings and testimonies, was not accepted by the court. In its ruling, the judge explained that the evidence from Heard was more convincing, and the allegations of abuse against her were largely confirmed. The court did not find that The Sun had committed defamation, and therefore the actor was unable to obtain compensation from the newspaper. This decision was a major blow to Depp's reputation, as he had already lost his job in Pirates of the Caribbean, and now the court had ruled that his behavior could indeed have been abusive. Reaction and consequences. Depp was extremely disappointed by the decision of the British court. He stated that he would appeal the decision, as he felt it was unjust and did not take into account all the evidence. Depp's lawyers argued that the judge had misinterpreted the evidence and had not properly evaluated the recordings that proved Heard's accusations were false. Despite the defeat in the UK, this trial became important in understanding how the legal systems in different countries can approach cases involving abuse and defamation. The British trial significantly damaged Depp's reputation, but he was determined to continue fighting for justice. Influence on future legal proceedings. The trial in the UK became an important precursor to the American legal battle that was set to take place in 2022. The British court's decision did not mean that Depp was found guilty of abuse, but it demonstrated how difficult it can be to prove one's innocence in such cases, especially when the accusations are accompanied by substantial evidence. In the future, the trial in the UK served as a basis for increased pressure on Johnny Depp in his personal life and career, and also drew attention to the potential hypocrisy in media portrayals created around celebrities and their legal cases. Preconditions for the trial. After his loss in the UK, Johnny Depp did not give up and continued to fight for the restoration of his reputation. He filed a lawsuit against Amber Heard in the US, demanding $50 million in compensation for defamation. This was the next major stage in their legal battles, and this time the case received massive media attention worldwide. In 2018, after Heard published her article in The Washington Post, Depp claimed that her accusations caused him enormous harm. In the article, Heard did not name him by name, but in context, she ironically and indirectly accused Depp of being an abuser. Depp insisted that the statements made in the article were not true, and he felt it was an attempt by Heard to destroy his reputation. Depp's lawsuit was based on the idea that Amber Heard's article caused immense damage to his career, reputation, and public image, as his name was linked to accusations of domestic violence. Depp argued that Heard's actions led to the collapse of his career, particularly in the film industry, where he lost roles in major franchises. This lawsuit became one of the most high-profile defamation cases in Hollywood in recent years, as both Depp and Heard were internationally famous figures. Reactions and public support. Unlike the trial in the UK, this legal battle was focused on the American public and its view of the situation. The case attracted massive media attention, as both Depp and Heard had a significant fan base, which meant that public opinion about the trial was divided. Some fans supported Depp, believing that he was innocent and that the accusations were false, while others supported Heard, perceiving her as a victim of domestic abuse. This created a huge divide between the two sides, which played a role in how the trial was perceived. On the other hand, the media focused heavily on the details of the relationship between Depp and Heard, which allowed both sides to present evidence and witness testimony. The trial turned into a real battle of public opinion, with each party presenting their own version of the events. In the end, the trial will have lasting consequences for both Depp and Heard, who are likely to remain tied to these accusations for years to come. Trial in Virginia. The outcome: Johnny Depp filed a defamation lawsuit against Amber Heard in Virginia, where the Washington Post article was published. The trial began in 2022 and lasted 6 weeks, drawing massive media attention. Depp's legal team argued that the article caused immense damage to his career, despite not naming him directly, because it was clear that it referred to him. Depp's legal team presented evidence of how the allegations against him affected his professional life, including lost roles and opportunities. Heard's legal team argued that the article was a reflection of her own experience and that she had the right to share her story. They also argued that Depp had not suffered as much damage as he claimed, and that his career was already facing challenges before the article was published. After 6 weeks of testimony, the jury sided with Johnny Depp, determining that Amber Heard's article had defamed him. The jury awarded Depp $10 million in compensatory damages and $5 million in punitive damages, though the latter was later reduced to $350,000 due to Virginia's state limit. Amber Heard, however, was also awarded $2 million in a counterclaim, where the jury found that Depp's lawyer had defamed her. The decision was widely viewed as a victory for Depp, as it was seen as a public vindication of his claims of innocence and a rejection of the abuse allegations.